Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate krim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan Ki Jai Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna. Let's continue our discussion on the 10th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter titled Departure of Lord Krishna for Dvaraka. We saw in the previous session how Krishna, after having guided the Pandavas in the great battle of Kurukshetra, he was compelled or ardently requested by his devotees to stay back in Hastinapur, and Krishna, simply to pacify them, and especially his sister Shubhadra, he had extended his stay in Hastinapur after the Kurukshetra war for a prolonged period of time. And when his thoughts turned towards Dvaraka, the devotees in Dvaraka, there also is very staunch devotees, and they have also been feeling pangs of separation from him. So in order to reciprocate with their feelings, Krishna started to make preparations to leave. And as he was about to leave, the scene is very vividly described here. And we saw some of those verses about how intense was Krishna's attractive influence on all the residents of Hastinapur. And here we can see Sutta Goswami nicely summarizes those feelings. He says in the 11th and the 12th verse of the 10th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about how intense was the pain in the heart of the Pandavas. He says, even if somebody had once heard about the glories of Krishna, one would at once feel separation from him. One would at once want to be with Krishna. That being the case, if you take Pandavas, they have had a very personal, intimate connection, intimate dealings with Krishna. 6 types of intimate dealings. He says here, Darshana, Sparsha, Samlapa, Shayana, Shayana Bhojanaihi. So 6 types of loving exchanges. Darshana, they were seeing Krishna 24/7. Sparsha, they were able to touch Krishna just like how one would do with a family member. Very intimate relatives, they'll always touch each other. Darshana, Sparsha, Samlapai, they were conversing with Krishna also, all the time. Shayana, they were sleeping on the same bed in the same room also where Krishna was sleeping. Asana, they were seated in proximity of Krishna. Bhojanahi, they were sitting and having lunch, dinner, breakfast with Krishna. So even if somebody hears about Krishna's glories once, such a person would at once feel an intense pain of separation from him. What to speak of the pain experienced by Pandavas who had 6 different types of loving exchanges directly with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is how he nicely summarizes. And the women in Hastinapur, especially the close relatives of the Pandavas, including Satyavati, Kunti Maharani, Subhadra Maharani, Draupadi, they all were feeling so much separation that they were about to faint. There's a whole list of devotees that are given. Unable to bear separation from Lord Krishna, Subhadra, Draupadi, Kunti, Uttara, Gandhari, Dhritarashtra, Yuyutsu, Kripacharya, Nakula, Sahadeva, Bhimasena, Daumya and Satyavati all nearly fainted. That's how intense their separation, the feelings of separation were. Now, despite feeling the impending departure, feeling the pain due to the impending departure of Krishna, because of that, tears were rolling down their cheeks. So the ladies quickly wiped off those tears because they feared that such tears may cause inauspiciousness for Krishna himself. So fearing that, they quickly wiped off their tears. And then as Lord Krishna was leaving, he was very appropriately honored. Arjuna was holding a big white umbrella for Krishna. The white umbrella signifies royalty. And white umbrella in Vedic times was offered only to great personalities like demigods. In this case, of course, Krishna, being the supremely worshipable Lord, he is being offered. Arjuna was carrying white umbrella. And Satyaki and Uddhava, they both are fanning the Lord on both the sides. In this way, the worship which is befitting to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that Krishna is, was offered to him. And all the Brahmanas were also reciting Swasti Vachana, offering benedictions, offering the glorification to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahmanas could be heard uttering benedictions, even though on one hand Krishna is Nirgunasya. Nirgunasya means without any material qualities. At the same time, because he descended down in the form of a human, Gunatmanaha, these benedictions are also worthy to be offered to the Supreme Lord that way. And then next section discusses about what the Hastinapur ladies were talking to each other. The very name Hastinapur, Hasti means elephant, Hastinapur means Pura or a city of elephants. Managing or maintaining one elephant itself is a very difficult task. But if a whole city is filled with so many elephants, so much so that the city itself gets the name, we can imagine how much wealth the Pandavas must have had, the Kurus must have had. So, as Krishna was walking out, all the Hastinapur ladies, they climbed on the roofs of their respective houses and mansions and they were talking to each other. So, this section is very important because in Kunti Maharani's prayers, if you recollect, there is one verse Kunti Maharani says about what qualifies one to go back to the spiritual world. Shrinvanti gayanti grinanti abhikshnashaha smaranti nandanti tavehitam janaha sa eva pashyanti achrena tavakam bhava pravaho paramam padambujam. She says that, oh my Lord, one who is hearing about you, Shrinvanti, one who is singing about you, Gayanti, one who is repeatedly remembering your glories, Smaranti. Usually we hear Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Shrinvanti, Gayanti, Smaranti. But Kunti Maharani to this list adds one more important qualification. Smaranti, Nandanti Tavehitum Janaha. Not only is a devotee relicious by hearing, chanting and remembering the Lord, but they also take pleasure in seeing others doing so. This morning I was reading Srimad Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada says, those who are passionate, those who are harmful, as well as those who are foolish, cannot go back to Godhead, are not actually devotees. Those who are passionate, those who are harmful, and those who are foolish cannot be devotees, even though externally, with their outward dress and appearance, they may seem to be. So, a devotee means not only is one who is engaged in the Navida Bhakti, but the most important qualification which Kunti Maharani says here is about appreciating. It's one thing to appreciate or tolerate, but taking pleasure in seeing someone. That means Paradukaduki. A devotee is always the greatest well-wisher. Titikshava Karunika Shuhridam Sarvadehinam Ajata Shatrava Shanta Sadhava Sadhubhushana. Titikshava, very merciful, or tolerant rather. Titiksha means tolerant. Tams titikshashva bharata. We read that in Bhagavad Gita. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkada agama payana nityas tams titikshashva bharata. Titiksha means to be tolerant. Titikshava karunika, one who is very merciful. Shuhurdam sarvadehinam. Shuhurdam means the well-wisher, well-wishing friend of not just humans, sarvadehinam, of all the 8.4 million species. Ajata Shatrava, one who has got no enemies. One doesn't have an inimical tendency towards anyone. Sadhava, one who is a sadhu. Sadhu Bhushana, one who is decorated with the wonderful Vaishnava qualities. These are the qualities of a pure devotee. So here we see the Hastinapur ladies, they are very simple at heart. They climbed up on the roof, and as Krishna was going, they are having a gallery look from right at the top, and they were talking to each other as they were showering Krishna with all the petals. So this section nicely describes about what are those intimate talks. Anyonyam, there is a very special word that's given. Anyonyam means a very confidential talk. Anyonyam is a word that's used for conversation between very intimate friends or very intimate relatives like husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, father and the kids, mother and kids. Very intimate talk. Like that, the first quality that's mentioned is the ladies themselves, they had a very, very wonderful friendly dealings amongst themselves. So that's the very first quality. But second, in that Sangha of intimate conversation, what did they speak? They spoke very highly of Krishna and his associates. Smaranti Nandanti. And specifically, they will single out each different categories of devotees and they say how glorious they are, how glorious these devotees are, like that. So goes to show it's not only the Pandavas who were pure devotees of the Lord, but the entire kingdom of Pandavas, especially in the capital city of Hastinapur, everyone is a devotee of the Lord. Not just ordinary devotees, Smaranti Nandanti, pure devotees of the Lord. They are able to find pleasure in glorifying about the bhakti, in glorifying about the devotional activities of Krishna's devotees. So here they say, pleasing talks, Anyonyam asit sanjalpa uttama shloka chetasam. Anyonyam means intimate talk. Asit sanjalpa, they were talking very intimately. Talking about who? Uttama shloka chetasam. Uttama shloka, the Supreme Lord who is glorified by choice poetry. Uttama shloka chetasam. With their mind fixed on Uttama shloka, they started to talk to each other. Anyonyam asit chetasam. Anyonyam asit sanjalpa. Uttama shloka chetasam. Then third line it actually says Kauravendra Purastrinam. Kaurava or Kuru. Kauravendra, who is the king of the Kurus? Yudhishthir Maharaj. Kauravendra Pura means the capital city of the king of the Kurus. Kauravendra Pura, the city where he lives, where the king of the Kurus live. Kauravendra Pura Strinam, the women who lived in the city inhabited by the king of the Kurus. That's what it means. Anyonyam asit sanjalpa uttama shloka chetasam Kauravendra Pura Strinam. Fourth line is very important. Sarva Shruti Manoharaha. How is their talks? Their intimate talks between the ladies of Hastinapur, whose mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord, who inhabited in the same city as the king of the Kurus. They spoke so sweetly about Krishna, so nicely about Krishna, that it bettered the entire Vedas and Upanishads. Sarva Shruti Manoharaha. Manohara means captivating one's mind. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it's given every day after Krishna goes to the pasture grounds, herding all the cows, he returns back to the village of Nandababa, Nandagaon, bringing all his friends as well as all the cows and calves. And when they come back in the evening, Krishna will be bathed in beautiful, fragrant, scented water and dressed beautifully, decorated nicely. And then Krishna would be served an assorted range of varieties of food for his pleasure. Bhoga would be offered. And the cooking would be personally done by Srimati Radharani. She wouldn't come forward, but she would send each one of the different gopis to go and serve. There is one special type of laddu which Srimati Radharani makes for Krishna. The name of the laddu is Manohara laddu. Manohara, it will take away or steal one's mind. So Krishna would actually pick out one laddu, touch it to the tip of his tongue, and then he would push it away, making everyone feel that this is so tasteless, or this is tasting so bitter, tasting so spicy, salty. He would make a face like that. And it's given that when Krishna does that one movement, Srila Sanatana Goswami explains what emotion it evokes in the heart of different devotees. Nanda Baba is worried. So the emotion which Nanda Baba feels is that of concern. Is everything all right? Like that. Yashoda Maya gets concerned. Oh my God, what food is being offered to my Lalla? She immediately turns towards Srimati Radharani. And all the supporters of Srimati Radharani, they look worried. Oh, our queen. Looks like there is some shortcoming in this. Oh my God, how can this ever happen to our queen? Like that. But there are other gopis in Chandravali's camp. When they look at Srimati Radharani, they look very happy. Yes, finally, something bad is happening. Otherwise, we always have tough time competing with their service. Like that, some are feeling. With this one movement, Krishna can evoke so many emotions in the hearts of thousands of devotees like that. That laddu is Manohara. And Krishna pushes that bowl of Manohara laddu. And then Srimati Radharani's relative, cousin of Srimati Radharani, he picks and he puts in his mouth and he describes, his whole mind gets captivated. And then when he looks at Krishna, Krishna gives a very cheeky smile looking at Srimati Radharani, winking at her. That's when everyone feels, oh, Krishna was just playing games. But the nature of that laddu is put in one's mouth, one's mind will be captivated by the lotus feet of Krishna. Sarva Shruti Manoharaha. That's how much captivating the talks of the Hastinapur ladies was. Why? Because Shrutis, normally it is said, Yashyaika Nishvashitam Vedaha. Vedas came from the breath of the Supreme Lord. Whatever that one can understand about the instructions of the Supreme Lord can be found in Vedas. You just open the Vedas, read or recite the Vedic mantras, one can understand knowledge. Veda is the vast body of knowledge. But still, the direct glorification of the Supreme Lord is not found in abundance in Vedas and Upanishads. It's found there, but found little bit here and there. In many places, it's given indirectly. On the other hand, the ladies of Hastinapur, they are glorifying Krishna directly. And we'll see in the subsequent verses. Because of this direct glorification of the Supreme Lord, the conversations of Hastinapur ladies was considered superior to Sarva Shruti. It was considered superior to even all the 4 Vedas and 108 Upanishads. So that's how this verse describes. Anyonyam asit sanjalpa uttama shloka chetasham Kauravendra purastrinam sarva shruti manoharaha. Their talks was so captivating. What are they talking about? They are saying, pointing at Krishna, and they are talking to each other. You can visualize when you read sections of Srimad Bhagavatam like this, where descriptions is given. Likewise, when we read sections of Bhagavatam of prayers of the pure devotees, we can try to put ourselves in their shoes, trying to get into the same frequency of their emotion with which they are offering prayer. Then we can relish those prayers, we can take shelter of those prayers. Otherwise, our reading will become mechanical. It will become even dry. Many times we think, why are the pastimes finishing so short? And why are the prayers getting prolonged for many chapters or so many verses? But the whole purpose of Bhagavatam is to make us a better devotee, which means our consciousness need to be purified. In order for us to be purified fully, we need to be not only logically present, but emotionally, devotionally, spiritually, we need to be present as we read through these different verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. So here, this section particularly speaks about the conversations of Hastinapur ladies. And as they are staying on the high roof on both the sides of the street, and Krishna is actually walking with the gait of a lion, being worshipped by everyone, being glorified, all the Brahmanas, being shown all the proper respect by even great personalities like the Pandavas. Arjuna was holding the umbrella, we saw Satyaki and Uddhava, they were fanning him. With this and all the ladies, they were dancing, throwing flower petals. With the gait of a lion, Krishna is walking like that. And all these ladies on the roofs of all these mansions and palaces on both the sides of this path, they look down at Krishna, point at Krishna, and they talk. What do they talk? This Lord Krishna is the original Purusha, Mahavishnu, who alone existed before creation. We will come later to that section where Krishna himself would say that in Chaturshloki. Aham evasham evagre. I existed before all the creation started, and at the end of this creation only I will remain. Krishna says that. And this particular description about the Supreme Lord is there even in Quran when it describes about Allah. Allah was there even before any creation started, and He will always be there even after everything gets annihilated. So here it's given, this Lord Krishna is the original Purusha. So this is their first words of glorification. Then they say, He manifested scriptures, Shastra Krit, compiler of all the Vedic scriptures. As Vyasadeva, who is his empowered incarnation, he compiled. But Krishna is the origin. Krishna didn't even need to speak. Yashyaika Nishvashitam Vedaha. Vedas came from his breath. Even Krishna didn't have to author it, sitting and writing it. That part was done by Vedavyas. So he manifested the scriptures, and they say it very beautifully. They say all the jivas, they were there in the spiritual world serving him. He just wanted to sport with them by giving them different names. Because of that, he created material world and sent them here. They glorify like that. Desiring to give different names to the jivas in the form of different species. One jiva becomes an animal, one jiva becomes a fish, one jiva becomes an elephant, one jiva becomes a human. And plus, when somebody is a human, even in human form, one gets different names. Even if one jiva is an animal, even in animal species also there are different names. So they say he is Shastra Krit. He compiled all the Vedas, and desiring to give different names to the jivas, he created this material world and sent all the jivas down. And then who is he putting them in under the control of illusory energy or Maya Devi. Then they mention about who can see the Lord's form. First they said this Krishna is the Mahapurusha who existed even before any creation started. Next they mentioned about he created scriptures, he created the material world and sent all the jivas. Then they say who can see the Supreme Lord? Only those people whose heart is purified by intense bhakti. This word intense, tivrena bhakti yogena, tasmad ekena manasha, mam chayo avyabhicharena. You come across this word again and again and again. When Krishna speaks about bhakti, he says, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, sarvadharman parityajya, to give up everything. Mam ekam sharanam braja. Krishna demands exclusive devotion. Devotees also demand exclusive devotion towards Krishna. Now here Hastinapur ladies are also saying, this Lord's form can be experienced only by great devotees who are purified by intense bhakti. Now what is intense bhakti? That we understand based on the instruction of Srila Prabhupada. 2 hours you chant, 5-6 hours you rest, remaining time we have to continue to serve Krishna. Practically we need to serve Krishna. Prabhupada writes in Nectar of Devotion that devotion is not an imaginative ecstasy. It's not something we can imagine. When we have deep, intense, loving feelings for someone, it has to be genuine. That's when we can relish. How long can an actor relish the character? Only until the director says, okay, cut, enough, let's go to the next shot. That's all. But even during that time, an actor does it like a job. Now, does an actor really feel like a king? The actor may have so many debts. He may still go bankrupt also soon. But in the movie that he is acting, he may be the world's richest person. So, same way, we can't fake devotional emotion. Even if somebody tries to fake, they can only fake for some time. How long can they fake? First thing, it's temporary. Second, it can't give any pleasure to them, let alone to the Supreme Lord. So, it's very important that we understand that devotional ecstasy cannot be imagined. Prabhupada says it's not an imagination, imaginative ecstasy. We can't force devotion also. There is a certain process and that process needs to be followed. Prabhupada would often give example of a girl who liked to have a baby. Prabhupada says in order for a girl to have a baby, there is a certain process. First she gets married, and second she unites with her husband, and third she won't get a child immediately. It will take 8 to 10 months. Then she will get the baby. But as long as Prabhupada says similarly, if one starts the process of Krishna consciousness, eventually one will come to the point of experiencing ecstasy. One can't artificially accelerate the process. It's not possible. Now, if one wants to attain that level of success, it's possible if one follows in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, instructions of Srila Prabhupada, and one practices Tivra Bhakti, intense Bhakti, then it's possible. So here they say only those whose heart is purified by intense Bhakti, who had controlled all their senses. Jitam sarvam jite rase. So by controlling all the senses, but then one can come to the platform of being able to see Krishna. Then they glorify about Krishna's pastimes, Sat Kataha. They say his excellent pastimes are described in the confidential part of Vedic literatures by his great devotees. It is he only who creates, maintains, and annihilates this material existence, but remains unaffected. And then they mention about why Krishna and when Krishna descends down. When there are irresponsible kings ruling this world by adharma, at that time Krishna comes and he does a whole lot of things. They say he displays his supremacy in so many different ways. Sometimes that supremacy comes in the form of his chivalry. Sometimes as truth, by giving instructions of Bhagavad Gita, by having personal instructions. You can read Mahabharata, and there are detailed conversations that are documented by Vyasadeva, conversations of Krishna in the assembly of the Kurus, the conversations of Krishna with Arjuna, conversation of Krishna with Draupadi, with Yudhishthir Maharaj. So many different personalities, with Dhritarashtra. So many different personalities with whom Krishna had a conversation with, they are all documented. So we can read Mahabharata. So Krishna, he establishes his supremacy by his speaking the truth as Satyam. Sometimes he demonstrated his supremacy, the power, by showing his daya, by being merciful also. We see Putana, how he was merciful. Actually, Krishna was merciful to all the demons he killed. He liberated all of them. And we saw in the previous chapter how even though Krishna was taking the role of a charioteer, he actually had favored Bhishma Dev more than what he did for Arjuna. Because Arjuna could only see the back of Krishna, but Bhishma Dev could see the entire scene. The beautiful form of Krishna, shining curly hair, his dhoti was like that of a lightning, holding the reins of all the horses in one hand, reins whip on the other, and Krishna was directing Arjuna, and Krishna was the commander, and Bhishma was seeing this entire scene. And all along Bhishma could see this. As long as Bhishma Dev was fighting, he could actually see this scene, which was not possible for Arjuna to see. So Prabhupada says that Krishna actually showed more favor for Bhishma than even Arjuna, like that. So here we see sometimes Krishna, he showed his supremacy by the words, instructions he gave as Satyam, sometimes Bhaga, showing his power, sometimes his daya, his mercy. It said sometimes pleasing words, Ritam, how he speaks to his parents, how he speaks to the gopis, how he speaks to his pure devotees, to Vidura, to his mother, to Draupadi, how he speaks, to Subhadra Maharani, how he speaks, to Arjuna, to Satyaki, to Uddhava, different personalities. And sometimes he established his supremacy by performing wonderful activities. This morning I was hearing His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj's class, and Maharaj was saying, Krishna simply by lifting the Govardhan hill with his left hand small finger, he is telling to Indra, I don't need to bother so much dealing with you. To deal with you, my little finger is enough. That's how Krishna establishes his supremacy. So you will come across Krishna proving to the whole world. He didn't have to, but Krishna, for the sake of pastimes, performing activities, that would time and again establish his supreme position. And then they mention explicitly about certain personalities, and in this particular verse they mention about Mathura and the whole Yadu dynasty, how they both are glorious. Aho alam slagya tamam yadokulam, aho alam punya tamam madorvanam. Two personalities or two things they actually say. Aho alam slagya tamam yadokulam. Aho alam, how supremely glorious is Aho alam slagya tamam. How supremely glorious is Yadokulam, the dynasty of Yadus. They'll say the reason. First they say, how supremely glorious. Aho alam slagya tamam yadokulam. Aho alam punya tamam madurvanam. How supremely virtuous is this land of Mathura. So they glorify the dynasty of Yadu. Aho alam slagya tamam yadokulam. The Kula, the dynasty of Yadu. Aho alam punya tamam madurvanam. How virtuous is this forest of Vrindavan, in especially which is in Mathura. Why? Yadesha pumsam rishabha shriyapati. Then next they say swajanma chankra manena chanchati. They say, why are these two things? Why is Yadu dynasty glorious and why is Mathura glorious? Yaesha pumsam rishabha, because it is in the place of Mathura. Because it is in this place of Mathura, Yaesha pumsam rishabha. Rishabha means the best. Pumsam means humans. Yaesha pumsam rishabha striyapati. That Supreme Lord, who is known as the husband of Goddess of Fortune, appeared here as the best among the humans. And what did he do? Swajanmana. he appeared on his own. That is why not only did he appear Swajanmana Chankra Manena Chanchati, he appeared and then he crawled on this land also. Swajanmana Chankramanena means crawling, like a little baby crawling on the ground. And Swajanmana, he appeared. So why is Yadukula glorious? Because Krishna Swajanmana, he appeared in the dynasty of Yadu. Why is Mathura glorious? Chankramanena, because Krishna crawled on the ground of Mathura. That's why Mathura is glorious. So this is how they glorify. Aho alam slagya tamam yadokulam, aho alam punya tamam madurvanam, ya esha pumsham rishabha striyapati, swajanmana chankramanena chanchati. Because of these two connections, where Krishna having appeared on the dynasty of Yadus, because of Krishna having crawled and given his entire childhood pastimes to this land of Vrindavan. Both Yadu dynasty and Mathura are glorious. Then they glorify Dvaraka. Dvaraka is even more glorious than heavens, and it enhanced the fame of this earth. There is already planet Earth, but Krishna, he erected Dvaraka fort. So now Dvaraka has become like a jewel. There is a place called Kada. In Tamil, they actually say it's one of the Malaysian islands. They call it Kadaram. Kadaram means, Kadal means ocean, Aram means like an ornament. Kadaram means an ornament of the ocean. That's what it means. Similarly, Dvaraka is like the ornament of the whole earth. Why? Because Krishna performs his pastimes. Krishna's devotees are there with him, dealing with him, reciprocating with the supreme love of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So they say Dvaraka is more glorious than the heavens and enhances the fame of the earth because its inhabitants constantly see Krishna, who glances at them with sweet smiles. And then they start to glorify wives of Lord Krishna. Again, Smaranti Nandanti. This is very important. The very reason why we are in material world is because of our envy for Krishna. Conversely, one of the greatest yardstick with which we can measure how we are progressing in bhakti is by being honest with ourselves. How happy are we becoming seeing others progress in their bhakti, seeing others practicing their spiritual practices. So here we can see, on one hand, the ladies of Hastinapura, they are glorifying others. But simply the very fact that they are able to glorify others also puts their own devotion at a very high pedestal, at a very, very high standard. We can simply see, by seeing them glorifying others, we can look at them and see how glorious they must have been, to be able to so selflessly, without any envy, nirmat saranam, without any tinge of envy, they are able to freely glorify others. So here now they are shifting. First they glorified Yadu dynasty, then Mathura, then Dvaraka. Now they are shifting their glorification to Krishna's wives. The wives of Lord Krishna must have performed vows, baths, fire sacrifices and perfect worship of Krishna. For what? To now taste the nectar of the lips of Krishna, which the Vrajagopis would often faint just by expecting. Simultaneously they glorify both. First they glorify the wives of Lord Krishna, saying they must have performed all sacrifices. They must have performed all sacred baths, visited all holy places, done all kind of vows and yajnas. Because of that they were able to taste the nectar of the lips of Krishna. But the gopis is simply thinking about, wow, I will be able to taste the nectar of lips of Krishna, they would faint. Meaning, gopis bhakti is supreme, even compared to that of wives of Krishna and Dvaraka. That's what it means. And now they say Rukmini and others were forcibly taken from their Swayamvara ceremonies by Krishna after he defeated many powerful kings like Shishupal. And then Krishna killed Bhaumasura and then married all the 16,100 princesses who have been imprisoned by him. So in this way, they glorify Krishna's wives also. And then Krishna, after hearing everything, all kinds of glorification from them, Krishna is walking, he is looking at all of them on both the sides, he reciprocated with them by smile. He smiles. You will see same reciprocation Krishna gives to Kunti Maharani also. After Kunti Maharani offers such devotionally rich profound prayers for Krishna, Krishna looks at her, reciprocates with her simply by giving a smile. So here also he looks at both of them, glances, and he smiles at them as he walks. And then the Lord departs and proceeds towards Dvaraka. Out of affection, Yudhishthir, who is known as Ajata Shatru. Shatru means Shatru means enemy. Ajata Shatru means no enemy, or he for whom enemy is yet to be born. That's what it means, which means there is no enemy. So Yudhishthir, accompanied by all the Pandavas, they were also going along with Krishna. Yudhishthir now is the king of the whole world. Yudhishthir Maharaj sent 4 different types of battalion. Radha, Kaja, Turaka, Patati. He sent army men on chariots, on elephant, on horses, as well as cavalry. Pada means those who are walking by foot. So he sent an entire battalion simply to accompany Krishna. Of course, Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He can kill anyone, any kind of danger at the blink of an eye. Still, as an expression of his love and affection for his cousin Krishna, Yudhishthir Maharaj sends. Not only that, the Pandavas, they also accompanied Krishna for a very long distance away from Hastinapur. Krishna is going towards Dvaraka. Pandavas are also accompanying, and at one point Krishna had to convince them, I'm okay, I've got everyone to take care of me, I will go, you please go back and take care of your duty. Your citizens are waiting, you need to go back. So Krishna had to forcefully push them back, that he will be fine, and he sends all of them back to the kingdom. And the chapter finishes with Krishna passed through various provinces like Kurujangala and Panchala to reach Dvaraka. But along the way, it took many days for Krishna. So they would set up a camp for Krishna as he goes, and then he would take rest. And whenever he actually takes rest, he would perform the evening rites. So Krishna was leading the life of a perfect king, somebody who would show everyone how to lead one's life. Yad yad acharati shreshtas. So because Krishna is the prince of Dvaraka, king of Dvaraka, Krishna is teaching to the whole world how one is supposed to perform their duties even during travels. So after performing evening rites, Krishna would take rest, and then next day again they would set out on their journey. So in this way, Krishna left Hastinapur and he arrives at Dvaraka, or goes towards Dvaraka. In next chapter, we will see how the Dvaraka Vasis, they welcomed Krishna. Everything which Krishna does is sweet, is glorious, is festivity. So it's given that Manaso Mahotsavam, whenever Krishna does something, whenever one remembers Krishna, whenever one speaks about Krishna, whenever one remembers Krishna, then one's heart becomes very, very jubilant and joyful, so much so that it becomes like the festival of the heart. It's given like that. So it's important that as we read through these verses, that we envisage ourselves there, and as we read, we can also go in the journey of Krishna. In this way, we can always be with Krishna. This is the technique which is followed by the gopis, and this is the technique which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself tells us as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we are supposed to follow in the footsteps of the gopis by remembering Krishna always, by always talking, hearing and remembering Krishna. We'll stop here. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai. Samaved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru